Bought $10 to access my father's past. I paid $10 to enter a small archive on the outskirts of Boston to look at the lists of passengers who arrived in the United States in the middle of the last century. It cost exactly $10. When I found my father's name among the immigrants who arrived in 1958, I felt like the money had opened a window into his secret youth. Once unfamiliar dates, a port of arrival, the name of a ship, all of it suddenly became part of his story, something he'd never told. Supported a lemonade seller. Not far from my home in Denver, a 10-year-old boy set up a small table and sold cups of lemonade for 50 cents. I bought $10 worth of it from him right away. It wasn't just lemonade, it was support for his belief that you can do something yourself. He was stunned, smiling and chattering about how he was going to save up for a new baseball glove. Seeing his eyes shining was worth more than the money. Accidentally helping a guy at a thrift store. There's a small thrift store in Portland that often has some weird finds. I saw a guy there, fiddling with an old $10 microwave, wondering if he should take it. I wasn't planning on spending the money, but I offered him, "Let me pay." He was surprised, initially refused, but then thanked me. 6 months later, I ran into him by chance at a local market. He recognized me and said the microwave was still working and that the gesture reminded him that strangers can be kind too. A $10 bar night I don't regret. I walked into a tiny bar in Tucson where the beer was exactly $10 a glass, way more than I was used to. But on this particular night, there was an older man at the next table, a veteran, who told me about his life after returning from Vietnam, how he overcame his injuries and found his place by opening a tiny antique record store. My extra cost for the beer was worth it, with a story that made me think differently about what older people went through. $10 to make the girl next door happier. Our neighbor is a single mom with a 9-year-old daughter who dreamed of a set of markers and a notebook from the stationery store nearby. I went there and bought her this set for $10 without much thought. Later, she brought me a drawing with funny animals and the inscription, "Thank you for the colors of the world." It seemed to me that for such a simple amount of money, I helped someone's childhood become a little brighter. Spent $10 to catch my dog. I decided to buy a regular leash for $10 from a guy selling junk on the side of the road in San Diego. My dog, Lucy, had previously managed to rip off all the cheap straps, and I believed in his indestructible model. In the end, Lucy not only tore it off, but was also spotted by a neighbor 5 blocks away, proudly carrying the remains of a brand new harness. Now I know for sure that for $10 you can buy the illusion of control over your dog. At least for 5 minutes. $10 for the best father-in-law chair. My father-in-law is a stubborn man from Ohio who complains about everything from the weather to bread. I bought a 1970s metal folding chair at a garage sale for $10, which the seller claimed was extremely reliable. When he sat on it in the garden, within 20 seconds the chair treacherously folded back. He heroically collapsed, and for the first time in his life, I saw him laugh at his own failure. Those $10 may have been the best investment I ever made in couples therapy. Turned $10 into Mr. Donut. In New York City, I bought a $10 box of donuts from a giveaway. They were covered in icing and looked like they'd been painted by a drunk abstract artist. I decided to give them to a neighbor kid who kept asking if I could find him something cool. He came out, saw the madness, put the donut on his finger like a ring, and a minute later he was running around the yard screaming that he was now Mr. Donut, the neighborhood sweets protector. It cost me $10, but it was $1,000,000 of fun. A classmate's masterpiece for 10. My old classmate, now living in Seattle, became a custom artist. For $10, I asked him to draw a portrait of my boss. He promised photorealism. In the end, he got a drawing where the boss looked like a cross between a beaver and a centaur, and the head was blown up so much that it looked like a balloon. Now this masterpiece hangs in my garage, and every time my boss grumbles, I remember this drawing and laugh. $10 for personal therapy, not bad. I bought my brother a life lesson for $10. My brother decided that $10 was a pittance and made me a bet. You can't buy anything normal with that. I went into a used toy store in Chicago and bought a huge inflatable flamingo for exactly $10. At a family picnic, I unrolled this pink giant and my brother tried to sit on it. A second later, it fell over with a crash, and the flamingo flew somewhere over the neighbor's fence. He realized that $10 could bring not anything normal, but a couple of minutes of an unforgettable circus. $10 for my skill at training raccoons. Every fall in the Atlanta suburbs, raccoons show up at the dump, smart, cheeky, always ready for a freebie. I bought a giant bag of cheap crackers for $10, thinking I could tame at least one. As a result, half an hour later, I was standing in the middle of the yard waving an empty bag, and the raccoon, who had brazenly stolen the last cracker, looked at me knowingly as if I were a loser. My training lesson boiled down to me paying for his treat and my public embarrassment. How to call a taxi with the power of thought for $10. In Austin, I decided to save money and take a taxi from a suspicious guy who claimed he would take me where I needed to go for just $10, without any apps or technology. The result: we drove for 15 minutes, then the car stalled, the driver got out and started waving his arms, as if calling the taxi spirits. 5 minutes later, another car actually pulled up and picked me up for the same $10. Now I know that in Texas, you can order a shaman signal transfer, and it will cost less than Uber. $10 for a school cafeteria gastronomic failure. My son gave me an ultimatum in the school cafeteria. Dad, if you give me $10, I'll try this mysterious green burger from our chef. I figured it was cheap to pay for the show. He took a bite, made a face like he'd swallowed an alien, and immediately announced that he now needed another $10 to urgently buy a soda to flush his stomach. Of course, I paid another tenner. Now I know that my son is a great little businessman, and school teaches more than just arithmetic. The Kansas $10 cantaloupe experiment. I was staying in the middle of nowhere in Kansas and saw a sign that said, "Cantaloupe, $10 juiciest." I bought one, brought it back to my motel, cut it open, and realized it was as hard as a volleyball. When I tried to eat it for dinner, my knife simply bounced off. The cantaloupe ended up becoming my makeshift dumbbell. Waving it in front of the mirror, trying to find some sense in the money I'd spent. My biceps thanked me, but my stomach not so much. The $10 parking ticket prank. My brother once taped a fake $10 parking ticket to my car in Los Angeles. I got upset and went to pay at the designated window, actually a local ice cream stand where his friend was selling popsicles. When he laughed and said, $1.10 and we'll fix it, I realized I was being pranked. Moral of the story: $10 is a small price to pay to find out how sneaky your brother is and get a free popsicle for the emotional damage. How I got a street financial expert for $10. A guy approached my cousin in New York City with an offer. For $10, I'll tell you how to spend money wisely. My brother laughed and gave him 10. The guy immediately started talking about the importance of investing and diversification, but then admitted that he himself lives in a van and uses his neighbor's Wi-Fi. After a minute-long monologue, he offered to take another $10 for a more in-depth portfolio analysis. We burst out laughing. Now my brother says that investing in a street advisor is the best lesson in the fact that not all gurus know what they're talking about. Paid $10 for a free hot dog. In Chicago, I came across an ad that said, buy a drink for $10 and get a free hot dog. I went in, paid, and got a weird green smoothie and a miracle hot dog that tasted like yesterday's sock. When I asked the vendor why he was so generous, he smiled and said, we're getting rid of the hot dogs that no one wanted. So I spent $10 on a lesson. Free cheese is not only in a mousetrap, but also in a hot dog. $10 for a janitor-designer consultation. In San Francisco, I was looking for ideas for remodeling my living room, went to a local park, and a janitor there offered to give me professional interior design advice for $10. Decided to take a chance. He looked me over solemnly, asked what colors I liked, then suggested, put the couch by the window and hang a painting of a horse. I went home, did it, and it turned out my wife was delighted. Now she's sure I hired an expensive designer, but I won't admit it was a janitor for $10. How I profitably invested $10 in a local children's theater. In Boston, a street troupe of child actors was raising money to stage Hamlet in a schoolyard. I gave them $10, hoping for a serious Shakespeare adaptation. When it opened, it turned out that Hamlet was a 5-minute skit about Hamlet looking for his sandwiches and fighting an imaginary crocodile. The audience laughed until they cried. My $10 was an investment not in art, but in the most spectacular and ridiculous interpretation of a classic I have ever seen. $10 for a robot dancing masterclass. In Los Angeles, some guy claimed that for $10 he could teach anyone to dance like a robot. You'll be the star of the party. I paid. He showed me some weird, angular moves and kept saying, now you're a machine. I ended up trying to do it at a friend's birthday party. People didn't get it and thought I was stuck in some kind of cramp. But now I have undeniable experience. For $10 you can get a new dance skill, but the public might perceive you as a broken mannequin. Bought a collection of rare stamps for $10. A man approached me at a post office kiosk in Philadelphia and offered to buy rare stamps for $10. He swore that his grandfather had been collecting them for 50 years. I was taken in and bought them. At home, I opened the package. Inside were ordinary postage stamps with Christmas deer, and half of them were already canceled. My wife laughed for a long time, and now I know that sometimes $10 is the price to pay for understanding that I understand stamps like a duck understands astronautics. For $10, I got a lesson in loving corn. In Nebraska, a farmer convinced me to buy the sweetest corn in the world for $10. I picked up an ear, tried it, and realized that it tasted like cotton wool. A neighboring farmer looked in and chuckled. "But this is feed corn for cattle." I was furious, but the farmer, without batting an eye, said, "Well, now you know that corn comes in different flavors." Whether he is a philosopher or a joker, but I spent $10 on a dubious culinary experience and a new level of respect for cows. $10 for a promise to lose 10 kilos. In Miami, a friend of mine said, "Give me $10 and I'll lose 10 kilos in 2 weeks, and we'll celebrate at a bar." I forked over the cash, hoping for his success. 2 weeks later, he came back with 2 pizzas and asked, "Maybe I should put off the diet. The bar is waiting anyway." We laughed and realized that the $10 was just an incentive that got drowned in cheese and salami. Now we have a new goal, to spend another $10 on a treadmill someday. Bought experience with a life expert. In San Diego, an old man with a homemade sign that said, "Wise advice for $10 promised to answer any question." I asked, "How to become successful?" He replied, "Don't spend money on stuff." I looked at him, he looked at me, and we both understood the irony. I gave him $10, got the advice, and we both burst out laughing. Lesson: sometimes the best way to understand the stupidity of spending is to do it yourself and laugh. $10 to lift your spirits at the gas station. At a gas station in Texas, I saw an old machine with toys that looked like monsters from the 80s. I put $10 in the changer, bought a bunch of tokens, and fished out 3 rubber figures, one of which was clearly rare. It glowed in the dark. The guy at the next pump chuckled. "What? Were you dreaming of childhood toys?" I handed him one as a gift, and we both burst out laughing. $10 for a minute of returning to childhood, plus a bonus smile from a stranger. Quite a bargain.